Hello everyone, welcome today to Map Control CS. I am your host Drew, joined today once again by the legendary Maru. We are going to be talking about the Epic27 seedings. If you missed the previous part of the episode that we did do, we went through Maru's career as an admin, and it's certainly an interesting interview. How are you doing today, Maru?
Yeah, not too bad. Nice Monday afternoon. So let's get going with this.
Yep. Obviously, I'm sure everyone will be fresh off the win of cricket yesterday, um,
Yeah.
so it'll be exciting to get into this today. Oh, it seems we're having some issues. 1 second. Okay, should be back. Okay, so we'll just get started into the seeding then. Obviously, Epic27, about a month ago now, I want to say, if I'm using my dates correctly,
Um,
maybe less.
Probably just over a month ago.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
the final was 4 weeks ago yesterday. So yeah, it's quite a month ago.
Yep. So obviously we are a bit late in terms of that, but it was unfortunate that I was on holiday straight after, and then we had conflicting dates between me and Yumi, and then last episode we had problems with internet, so we couldn't cover it. But hopefully we'll be able to get straight into it now. So obviously, as we have here today, Maru, the person who did pretty much the majority of the seedings for this epic, and I believe at least the two epics before that as well. Um,
Yep.
so I guess we'll go through it. Well, Murray. So first seed was Fish123, second seed was Buzzkill, third seed Darkspawn, and fourth seed Bulldog. So just talk me through top seeds. How easy was it to do those top four?
I think in terms of the top four, I was comfortable with who they were. It was a case of how they were going to be placed, aside from obviously Fish 1 2 3, because
Yeah.
let's not be silly. They are they should have been number one, and they went on to be number one. So we'll leave that one aside. So with 2, 3, and 4, um, it wasn't as difficult as say the rest of the seedings was, but
Yeah.
um, Buzzkill was obviously at the time the Premiership team minus um
Russ.
minus Ross, and obviously Emmy stepping in. And I know PK was playing in for Leaf on the Friday for group stage, but
Yes.
again, that wasn't much of my concern because he's more than an adequate enough player. And plus, it's group, so I would expect Buzzkill to go just breeze straight through.
I mean, you've got Hype, J Sam, and Hawk. That the core of the roster is there. You'd expect them to be able to get through the group. So, and Emmy himself is a
Yeah,
good individual player. So, I think the concern was, or the lack of concern for that was valid, really.
yeah, which is why I kind of thought they weren't particularly doing great in Prem at the time. They were only 1-4, and their advanced record at the time was 6-5. So again, it's not great, but it's not poor. So it kind of justified themselves to be number two. I mean, to put it into perspective, the sort of set of teams that came for 27 in comparison to 26 was a lot poorer in my eyes.
Yes, I
20,
mean 100%.
I think 26 will still be one of the most stacked events I've ever worked, ever, in terms of UK talent wise, because it was actually painful to try and go through 1 to 24, because it was just so many bits here and there that I couldn't really quite. But with this one, it wasn't as bad.
Yeah,
Now, probably the big one. I wouldn't say the big one, but Darts one versus Bulldog, 3v4. Um. Oh yeah. So on the sort of face of it, looking at numbers, Bulldog does have the higher face of Elo, but Darkspawn has the sort of more notable league experience.
yeah, 100%.
Difference being obviously Bulldog were all five of them were in intermediate, but 4 of the 5 of Darkspawn were actually playing in advance. Record wasn't great, 3-6, um, but at the same time there was a core within that sort of particular unit that were playing in the UK Prem, which
Yeah,
they weren't doing great. They were 2-3, but I still believe they were, pardon me, more superior than Bulldog. So that's why I had Darkspawn at 3 and Bulldog at 4. Now here, why I put CX at 5.
yes,
And
that is what I was going to get to next, which was even we were surprised a little bit to be above CX, not because we didn't think they were better, we were better or whatever, but they've always had a decent top four seed for the past 4 or 5 lands.
yeah, and in my particular opinion, and I suppose the land results back it up, they haven't been fulfilling that top level caliber sort of play. Um, Initially, I actually had them lower. I had them like
Yeah.
6 or 7. Um, but after sort of reconsideration, looking at it, I went with I went with them being at 5. Um, Partly because just basing them around the sort of teams I had them about lower down, they were they had the potential to be better. It's just whether they turned up, and
Yes.
we all saw what happened at LAN, where they ended up 7, 8 in the end.
Yeah.
So
I
that
mean,
was my
they've been on a poor run of form up until that event as well. Um, in Maine, I can't remember the scoreline at the time, but I don't think they had a great record
um
in Maine at the time.
in Maine they were 4 and 5
So
with a
that's
default
not.
win. So
Yeah.
it's not bad, but it's not the sort of caliber you expect a top 5 UK team to be. Obviously, there were notable teams missing from this LAN.
Hmm.
London, Fierce, uh, two of the
Yes.
top teams here in the UK, so they weren't in attendance. So that sort of brought the lower quality up higher, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so then we moved from CX to Demise at 6. Um, Great stack of team, like numbers back them up. The only downside I think, the only reason why they were down below CX was they were playing in open at the time.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and by all means, their record was 11-2, but it's just the fact that they were playing in open.
Of course. Yeah. Oh, obviously, it's two very different leagues. Open is a mix of
Well,
incredibly poor teams and then one or two decent or
well,
good teams.
I played in open. That says it all.
Oh, don't do that to
Um,
yourself,
Mate, I'm not. There's a reason why I admin.
alright.
And then yeah, so from there on, the top running the top 8 was I had 72 virgins, which was uh, most notably known as the RGI lot.
Yes.
Greeny Square, Shubi, Yelm, and Hyphen. 4 to 5 of them were in intermediate with a record of 6 and 7. Again, not great, not poor. But it kind of just shows what sort of teams were below them, really. And I think a lot of people were a bit surprised to see Scuzzers at 8. But I just felt because they were a 5 stack, they were all 5 of them playing in the intermediate, and if many people know me, I do value 5 man in more than sort of threes
Mix.
and fours and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it they had decent numbers. They had the record, albeit 5 and 8, but I still felt they were worthy of having that top 8 in the end. And yeah, so they were my top 8. I don't think there was much movement between like the 3 drafts that I did between that top 8. Maybe a few here and there. So I think I had like Demise about 5 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is what it is. But to get 5 of the top 6 right, I'll take that.
Exactly. I mean, it's always going to be a gamble, especially when you like the sort of top three, top four is usually at most events pretty easy to determine. But when it starts going down into those lower levels, especially, and I think you did a good job on the lower levels as well, trying to predict some of these teams that you haven't seen much of. Um, CX again, I think 5 was I think that was good for them. I think personally the form we were on, the way we were playing, as obviously full disclosure, I am the coach for now Buzzkill or Bulldog at the time, but
Yeah,
I felt like we could definitely have beaten CX. We definitely beat anyone below us in the seedings. Felt like it was going to be a challenge, and with bringing back to your point earlier about the difference between us and Darkspawn, when we played Darkspawn, there was no doubt they were the better team than us. But that core just seemed to. I mean, Jenko was on fire that event, and individually they just had the better players. Um,
mm,
so I can't find any faults in your seeding this event at all. As much as I like to try, but I think really, honestly, you've done a really good job on this. There's a few like where Catch Trust, they're supposed to be the 12th seed, they didn't make it out of groups, and Project X was
yeah,
16th, they made it to the upper bracket. CX in the end, I'd like to point out, didn't actually make it out of the upper bracket because they lost to the head-to-head to Legion, so
yeah,
they went to the lower bracket, which was unexpected. It should have been a fairly easy group for them to get to upper bracket. I mean, our group was, for us personally, was an absolute breeze. I mean, we kind of lucked out a little bit with that fourth seed, being able to get that top spot and not really having much competition throughout the group. It's obviously not something it's hard to predict, but the Project X Guzzers and Cat Trust game. Well, I mean, Cat Trust didn't even play us; they just took the with. We defaulted them. But Project X and Scuzzers were pretty. They were decent teams in the sense that they were full-fledged teams and they had stuff to throw at us.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, it was fairly easy, and I mean for Buzzkill, I don't think they really had a problem during their group as well. The same for Fish123. CX lost 2 games somehow. Who else did they lose to? All right, fair enough.
Um,
I know they lost to Legion. Did they lose to Immigrant as well, possibly?
so you would have lost to Fish123 as well, wouldn't they?
Oh, of course, yes. So I
Yeah.
forgot. Yeah, Fish123, and they lost to Legion,
Legion.
which on the when we get to the groups, you'll see that Legion are below them on the group stage, but technically they went through to the upper bracket.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was how many seeds were actually put down? Okay, so it's down to 16 seeds.
Down to 16. Yeah.
Yeah, or 16 official seeds, but like you said to me, I believe last episode, um, that everyone was actually seeded in a sense, but it just was not officially put onto the, or you did it to a, down to
So
how many
I
teams?
I did it down to 32.
Okay,
So I did it for every single team.
yeah,
Um, but from what I've been told, anything after 16 wasn't carried on. Um, which I obviously didn't particularly take a liking to because of just the way it's set. You don't
it's
move
it's
a
a
bunch of
it's
it.
very random, which
So
then means that
essentially,
you're just
because you
getting
you
shit.
could basically get, for example, in the group D, so where it's 4, 8, 12, 16,
Yeah,
you very well could get a 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and that would be ridiculous. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, so I didn't particularly take kind to knowing that had happened, and but yeah, it was done. I wasn't there, so I can't really do much about it. I did my brief. I told him exactly this is how I would like it to be done. Whether it was done like that, you know, I can't really say much.
yeah. I mean that's
Um,
fair enough. You were in France at the time, so there was nothing much you could really do from that position. I would agree that I think it should be seeded to a point where you can do as many teams as possible. If it's going to like a 48 team event, I can understand that it may be a bit difficult to get into.
I mean, I would still do it to 248 because what
Yeah,
at 26 I did all 44 teams that came down.
I mean, exactly. That shows that you were willing to do it, but I'm not sure who the lead admin actually was at this effort. Was it Jazz? Um,
Believe so.
yeah. So I'm a bit confused if it's done for them, why they've not taken it on board. But obviously, again, I'm definitely not involved in the admin team, and I wasn't there, and neither were you. So I assume that
No.
it just came down to what they've done before at previous events, or whatever, whoever dictated that. But yeah, that's pretty much the seeds for the group. So now we'll just get directly into the group stage itself while I put my camera on. So coming up on your screen in a second will be the Group A to B. So Group A to B: Fish123, CEX, Legion Gaming, Immigrant, Inflamed, Soz for Owned, 200 Knives, and Purple's Aki Muscle Touchers. That is the complete Group A. Group B was Buzzkill, Demised, Beans, Giant Squid, Omen, Over Aggressive Players, Kinda Battered, and Woke Boys. Obviously, you can see there the top four for Group A. In first place, Fish123. I would have been incredibly surprised if they didn't get the top spot, let alone second or whatever it may be. There was no one in that group who should have given them any competition, and their round difference was, I mean, really, really good.
Plus 73.
I mean, just looking at Buzzkills, actually, it's better, but fair enough. It doesn't matter. Fish123 obviously finishing on 21 points. CEX and Legion Gaming joint on 15 points, which is why Legion's below them due to obviously alphabet order.
I think it'll be done by round difference on the
Oh,
website,
sorry. Yes.
but round difference, it doesn't. The website's not fully aware of head-to-head sort of stuff yet, so
Yeah.
hopefully that gets sorted soon.
But Legion Gaming beat CEX in group stage, which meant that Legion Gaming went through to the upper bracket, CEX went through to the lower bracket, and then obviously it was just Immigrant and CEX that went through to the lower bracket. I can't even remember who was on the Immigrant team. Let me just get that up.
The immigrant team
I,
would have been
I,
Gentleman, Smelly Shoe, Trap, Effect, and Mikey.
okay, well,
So
those were the ones who went through in Group A. I don't think I've actually saw them play or anything like that, but I will. Yeah, so one of the seeds didn't get out of groups. That was Sosva owned, but only 13th seed, so you could understand why, possibly. Group B, we move on to Buzzkill and Demised, top two seeds. I think that's expected again, but at least for Buzzkill's sake, um, you know, 81 round difference. I don't think really anyone put up a fight against them. I spoke to Jace a bit at the event, and he was just saying basically groups were a breeze for them as well. Obviously, Demise, I imagine, was maybe a few rounds, but again, it's best of ones in groups, so it's always going to be tough. Demised, 6th seed, 7-6, lost one game. That game would have been lost to Buzzkill.
yeah, scoring that game was 16-13 as well. So I suppose they gave him a decent run for their money, but not enough.
Yeah, it's a best of one, unfortunately. I feel like I watched that game. Might have been playing actually at the time. But Buzzkill, obviously flawless in group stage. I think the only time they went on to lose a map would have been to Fish 1-2-3 in the upper bracket, and then lost a map to them in finals as well, or lost two maps. Demise, they were pretty. I mean, obviously we played against them when we get on later. I'll talk about that as well. But I don't think they surprised me, but they just played consistently well throughout the event. Like 100%, they are a team that is going to do well. I'm pretty sure they qualified for main already. So that'll be interesting to see sort of what LAN they attend next, if they can keep their full roster. And next to Beans and Giant Squid, that's both all four seeded teams are out. Beans, can't remember, is
LVN,
Elf, yeah,
Willard,
Jin's
Jim's
Freshest
fresh.
and Big N. And then Giant Squid is actually we played against them in intermediate, so I know the majority of their roster. Kazlin, Haas, Joss, Rome, and Bensky. Yeah, I mean, no real surprises there. Omen could have upset maybe Giant Squid or someone like that to get into the playoff or into the lower bracket, but it was a pretty open and shut group as well. I think, well, your seeds have pretty much worked out in the entirety except for Souls for owned.
There's always one.
There's always one. There is absolutely always one. Um, I mean, there's no real surprises in this group stage. I think if I were to imagine that in my head, that would have been exactly how it went, except for CX would have been the upper bracket for me. It seems to happen to them a lot where I feel like it happened to them last Epic as well. They went into the lower bracket. Maybe I'm wrong actually, but
So I'm gonna have a quick look at that because I know they did that for 25 because at 25 it was fourth versus fifth in lower bracket first round, and I was like, for my life. So for 26, okay, it's not letting me see it. Oh, whatever. For some reason it doesn't want to allow me to see. Oh,
oh,
no, here we are. Elimination. No, CX started upper bracket.
okay. So I think it was 25. I was thinking of them when I feel like they went out in either first or second round to someone. Oh no, they went out. No, they.
Elimination stage.
Okay, yeah. Because I think Epic 25 was the one where they faced Waterwalkers and actually beat them in the lower bracket. So might be a different land.
Oh no, they did make it out. Yeah, might be a different one. Sorry, might be a nice series.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyways, Group C to D now. Obviously, there were only four groups at this LAN as well, for anyone that is wondering. Um, four groups of eight, I believe, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 4 rates.
And then I think there was it even in the end, the amount of teams that attended? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was back on 32.
Okay, yeah, perfect. And then we have Darkspawn finishing top of their group again, not losing a single game. Makes sense. Wouldn't expect them to lose to anyone really in that group. John Howard possibly could have put up a fight, but they don't really have the core of the individual skill for that. 72 Virgins, John Howard, Operation Aesthetics. Again, all the seeds. 72 versions obviously would have hoped to have done better and made it into that upper bracket, but all the seeds have made it out once again of a group. Um, Anything surprise you in Group C really? For me personally, not really.
Obviously the old boys, Ash Zio. Um, like I even had in my notes, no core present but major experience could be a surprise package, and they go on to finish second in the group.
From what I saw, they played well throughout the event. I'm pretty sure they took a map off CX as well in the lower bracket, I want to say.
We'll have a look at that once we get onto it. But yeah, I just remember, uh, actually, congratulations, Ash. Just saying, fair play for proving me wrong. Um, I mean, it's nice to have surprise packages like that at times. I think when seeds get released, there's three types of people. The first type is they get triggered immediately, and basically don't help their case. The second lot, which I think are very few amount of people, is they see it and they're like, okay, we can do better than that. Let's go. And then the third type are like who frankly don't give a crap. And I'm yet
Yeah.
to kind of meet those sort of people. Because it's normally one or two, but it was nice, like just seeing that sort of surprise package. Obviously, disappointed with Shui's lot. Um, I thought they were going to be not not land sort of winners or in that sort of bracket, but sort of people like that could put up a fight.
Yes.
That's the whole point I think of the 5 to 8. They're the ones who aren't going to be the winners, but they're going to be the ones who put up the long fights. But yeah, it was kind of disappointing to see them dropping straight into lowers. And then yeah, Group D went sort of as expected, aside from Cat Trust. So
Yeah, that is twice in a row that a team with, I think, was it not Goid Squad, that were 18th seed at Epic 25 or whatever. Which one was the 40 team event? Is that Epic
26.
26?
Yeah,
They were seeded 18th, and I'm pretty sure they finished dead last, um, which is unfortunate. Um, but yeah, again, from personal experience in that group, it was pretty easy. It's not an insult to anyone in the group. A few people put up 10, 11 rounds, but it didn't feel like we were ever going to lose a game against any of these guys. We were pretty lucky with the fourth seed, just because of how obviously not being fully seeded as well worked out in our favour. That we got other people who probably weren't great in the groups.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking looking to sort of see how I can jiggle groups for future, to kind of make it more fair across the way. Because I remember someone did point it out that, well, technically Group 4 is the easiest. And in some sense, I can see where they're coming from. I don't necessarily 100% agree with it. I think like the sort of skill bracket is sort of similar. I mean, I suppose when you've got 1, 5, 9,
Yeah,
and 13 in Group 1, and then you've got 4, 8, 12, 16 in Group 4, I suppose you can see as to why people would make that sort of, not accusation, but that sort of point.
yeah,
So I am looking at ways into improving how groups are, and we'll talk about a bit of that later. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, hopefully moving forward, groups can be a bit more easier. I'm not saying that the seeds should be the ones who get out, um, or like they should be expected to get out and progress through to the next round. Because then, what's the point of having groups? But what I'm saying is it might be a case of making groups a bit more interesting. Maybe if it's not Epic 28, then maybe Epic 29. But I'm looking into it. It's part of quite a big thing that I'm looking at. But we'll talk a bit about that later.
Very interesting stuff. All right, so that is complete groups, and what people do also need to remember is that anyone who finished top of their group, I'm pretty sure didn't lose a single game. Yeah, so everyone who finished their group did not lose a single. Who finished top of their group didn't lose a single game. So now we move on to the upper bracket. The first round matchups were Fish 123, Project X, Legion Gaming versus Bulldog, Buzzkill versus
Overly aesthetic.
There we go. And Demised versus Darkspawn. So Fish123 expectedly,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was not really a close game. Fair enough though. Project X making it to the upper bracket gives them that advantage to have to play many games that day, or as many games that day. Legion Gaming versus Bulldog. Um, that was a fairly, run through, just getting through the motions sort of game for us. We were just trying to save everything we could because we knew we were going to be facing Fish 123 in the next round. Buzzkill versus Operation Aesthetics. Again, went as how you would expect it to. Buzzkill just pretty much ran through them. Demised and Darkspawn. Demised were able to get a map off them. They've got a very interesting map pool. It's something I have to give to them because they're willing to play Nuke and Vertigo. And when you're playing a best of three, you can obviously only ban one to start.
yeah,
So it's when we played them as well. It's sort of me and Em had to talk for 5 minutes, like which one are we going to ban, and because we know the other one's just going to be picked by them. Um, but I think again, you'd expect Dartspawn to win that game. Upper semis, Fish 123 versus Bulldog. Um, First map was 16-12, and we should have won it. But we lost, I think, an eco at 12-12, which just screwed the momentum for us. And then we got absolutely destroyed in the second map, 16-4 in Mirage. Um, but I think you'd expect Fish 123 to win that anyway. Even if it went to
yeah.
a third map, it would have been super difficult for us to try and get through. Um, Buzzkill, Darkspawn, an interesting game, an interesting matchup. Considering Buzzkill aren't at full strength, Darkspawn obviously aren't an official team, but they've got that mix sort of you know, you're not prepared for them kind of thing.
Yeah.
They've got that surprise factor, but again, Buzzkill just going through the motions for them. It seems always seem to be consistent on land. Really, they've had one. I don't think they've no. I think they've been pretty good across the board when they've attended as a revelation, Buzzkill, whatever core it is.
Uh, the Buzzkill lineup that came 25 went into lowers, which
That
was a
was that was MT Impact Rust. That was the old
Russ.
lineup before they
Yeah,
at that you'd land after that land. That's when we came to know the revelation and then future Buzzkill lineup, which was Hawk,
yeah,
Leaf, um, Impact, Russ, and JSAP.
yep.
Obviously, that was allowed. They got knocked into the lower bracket first round, and then got knocked out lower bracket first round. In fact, because did they not have to face Lifts or CX or someone like that,
What Epic 26?
or whatever
Um,
one they got knocked into lower bracket? They had to face someone in the first round of the playoffs lower
so
bracket.
at Epic 26, they topped their group.
Yes,
Was it?
that would be the
Yeah,
JSAP
they
that
topped their
lineup.
group. And then they had to play. They went. They did an alright run. Um, they won the first round, lost the second round to Reflex, and this is where I semi messed up because I didn't have it flipped again. Then they had to play Reflex again.
Yes, I remember this.
Reflex them both times tier one. So yeah, I remember that one for that reason, which is
Yeah, I remember speaking. It might have been Impact actually about that, and he's like, yeah, definitely should have just flipped. Um, yeah, but either way, we're going off into 5 different lands now. Buzzkill expected to go through to the upper bracket final. This is going to be an interesting matchup to see how Buzzkill could cope, because for me, this was the expected final anyway, even without Russ being a part of that
yeah,
Fish one, being a part of that Buzzkill lineup. Um, but Fish 123 again, they have so much individual skill in that team that having setups and having good team coordination and having a good caller like Buzzkill do, it made no difference to the grand scheme of things. It weren't blowouts, but it was Fish 123's game to lose. We'll say that really. They were the ones who pretty much had to win this, or it would have been a major upset still.
yeah. I mean, even though one's a mix and one's what is mostly a team,
Yeah,
it was still. There comes a point where sometimes mixed power is too much,
exactly.
and this is one of those times. Unfortunately, like it's it's been how many lands now where mix has won, and it's doing my
It's
head in.
it's the
It's
fourth
it's doing my
epic in a
head in,
row
and
that's been won by Smuya. I know that for a fact. Um,
but but yeah, I mean, I'm hoping Epic 28 is a big one. I'm hoping a lot of CS teams come to it. I will be there for that one. Just saying now. But yeah, I've got other things planned for that as well. So again, we'll get back into that later. But
Yeah.
so talking about this, yeah, it went as expected. The map scores 16-10 first map on Dust 2, and then Mirage going to 25-21, um, which was a good one to watch actually. I was watching that on stream. Um, over at what trackside I think it was at the time. So I don't know. I thought they could do it. I thought they could probably take it to map 3, but unfortunately that wasn't going to be the case, and I think they knew they'd already lost the tournament based on this, which is quite sad but understandable. I felt like if they got one map off them in this upper bracket final,
It would have made the
they
difference.
they would have gone into the grand final going, we can get these up, and they
Yeah.
would have probably had more belief. But I think getting 2-0'd sealed the deal before they even knew it.
Yeah. I mean, it always comes down to that mentality, doesn't it? Whether or not you
Yeah,
feel like you can adapt to what they're doing, or yeah, it was rough because from what I know, Ross was still supposed to attend the event with them, but they made the decision that because if he's not going to be playing future events with them, they're just going to bring Emmy. Maybe I don't know if Russ himself would have made the difference, but obviously having the core five always, again, it comes
I
back to
don't
mentality.
I don't think he would, because this was at a time where I think he was having a bit of a poor run of form in Prem, um, and I think they looked a decent team. I mean, if this was Primus we're talking about MVP season
Yeah,
that he had in spring, then yeah, it would have been a massive difference. But I think with how Prem was going at the time, I don't think the change would have been as sort of drastic as it was. I don't think.
yeah. It's not like Emmy's, 10 times below the level of Russ individually. He is a good individual player. Um,
Yeah,
and I think because of where Russ's mind was at the other time, which was, I'm going to endpoint, this isn't my team anymore. Maybe the decision was correct. It's always tough, and it always comes down to Buzzkill, the organisation, are firstly probably paying for them to go, and if he's not an official player for the organisation anymore, it's always rough. But we are now on to the lower bracket, and we'll go through basically the first couple of rounds as quickly as we can, and just go through the map scorelines. Beans versus G versus. I still can't read my glasses on. Yeah, well, Beans won that 2-0. CX won their first round against 72 Virgins 2-0. Howard beat Immigrant 2-0, and Giant Squid beat Scuzzers 2-0 as well. Lower quarters, Demise beat Beans, expected. CX did get a map taken off them, which is what I mentioned earlier, by Operation Aesthetics, which is not something you'd necessarily expect from what is, at the
it
time
was
was a five-man
on
lineup of
train.
CX.
They got them up off them on
Interesting.
train as well, so
Very
maybe
interesting.
they just saw CX being a poor train team and just said, "All right, we'll
To
take
be
it to
fair,
them."
I have not seen them play train that much, so I can't, I can't say much about that. I don't think they played it in. Well, they're not even in Prem anymore, but I can't remember seeing it on their ESCA page. Obviously, then we go on to Howard, beat Legion Gaming, who were knocked out in the upper bracket by Bulldog. Giant Squid versus Project X. Obviously, Project X were the ones that were knocked out in the upper bracket by Fish 123. Squid um, were, I believe, third or fourth in their group, and they started out in the lower bracket, as you can see. They managed to take that game 2-1. I feel like I was watching a bit of that game, and it was because we had to wait till something like 11 p.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever it was to play our next game, which was, we'll say, boring. So Squid beat Project X. Then we move on to the really interesting matchup for me, which was Demise CEX.
Yeah,
Um, this was at the time I think we were going out for food or whatever, but we came back and watched the end of the and they were playing. They're playing Vertigo, which was one of the maps again, a map I hadn't seen CEX play that much.
yeah,
Um, and it shows sort of the versatility of this Demise team that they're willing to play Vertigo, Nuke, whatever it is,
yeah.
and
So the
that
maps
yeah
maps in this game were Vertigo, Nuke, Dust 2. So CX actually picked Nuke for this one. And just basically saying on CX, yeah, they've not played Train once in either UK Open or EU Main. So I think that was a smart pickup by Ash and them. But yeah, going to this match, this is where sort of would be the match where I'd say, all right, this is your chance to prove that you're still up there, um, as like a final chance, and they went ahead and lost. So,
Yeah, I just
um,
went ahead and lost for that.
so yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, like whether they bounce back or whatever, they're gonna have to do a lot to try and prove to me that they are worthy of being a. I don't know if all the teams come to LAN in October, they got to prove to me that they're a top 10 team.
I series. If they do go to I series as well, we'll set that out. That'll be a good sort of point to look forward to see if they can either
Yeah, it's
get
just,
rid of
I
the
think I
form.
series will be.
They
Yeah, I think
are
I series will be the main,
they are
the
LF1,
tournament to get rid of.
so they need to complete their roster first as well. Obviously, after
Of
Mr.
course,
Hoy
yeah.
left, I think
Has
directly
that
off
not
the
been done
spent.
yet?
Not to my knowledge, I do not believe. I know they had inquired about a few people, but I don't believe they have completed their roster.
Are they not playing playoffs?
They didn't make main playoffs.
Oh, they didn't, did they?
I think they went 8-8 or something, or so they kept their
Yeah,
spot. I know that, but I don't think they made it into playoffs. Um, but either way, yeah, the map scores were 16-12 on the first map to Demise. That would be Vertigo. Then 16-8 on Nuke to CX, and then 16-13 on Dust 2 to Demise. So CX obviously put up a decent fight at least. But it's clear to me they're not at the level they were before, and I think that's apparent to anyone. Um, Something needs to be done, whether it be bringing in a new fifth that you know changes the team or whatever it may be. Something needs to happen where otherwise they are just going to keep going down and down and down in seedings for Epic, Insomnia, whatever event they attend. But we move on to the other consolidation match, which was Howard versus Squid. Obviously, John Howard and Squid both went into started in their lower brackets. Squid were 2-0'd by John Howard, and then the lower semis. We had Bulldog versus Demise. That was an incredibly tough game. We went in with it with the mentality, obviously, we believed we were better than them.
yep,
We played into their hand in the veto because we obviously had to ban Vertigo, but there's no way we were. 10 minutes before we went into Nuke, we went through smokes um, and made sure we knew smokes. Got into the game, 14-5 up, lost the game 16-14. No, lost the game in overtime, sorry.
22-20.
Yes, and I can tell you, sitting behind that was maybe one of the most frustrating experiences as coach I've had yet, because we had that game in our hands, obviously, but there was no excuse for being 14-5 up. We managed to win the pistol and T side and whatever it was anyway,
Yeah,
and then it just fell apart. They were just their T side. Sorry, their CT side was just it was just miles better than what we could offer on their T side, on our T side, obviously. Um, and that shows me that the map pool that they have come to create is one of the best for sort of a middle tier team, like, but like us,
yeah,
them, CX. Now I'd consider it's one of the most interesting and diverse ones because they can play pretty. There's not many maps they're not willing to play. Um, the second map we went into was Overpass. We were pretty confident in Overpass even after being quite upset after losing the 14-5 lead.
yeah,
Um, that was a pretty convincing win for us on Overpass. It was 16-7,
yeah,
which getting being 14-5 down or up and then losing the game and coming back into that second map in 67 just gave us all our confidence back. We were just completely the better team on that map. There's no doubt about that. Mirage was an interesting one. It started off really, really back and forth.
yeah,
Um, it was again tough. It seems to be a very it seems to happen to us a lot where we get off really slow and it's just a slow build into the game. But it got to sort of half time, and from there we just took the game into our hands. There was a bit of problems where we had to take a massive pause, and then because everyone was giving it to each other, people had each other muted so that when we needed to cancel the round, they didn't see it because obviously we were putting it in chat, and there were some interesting clips. I'm not sure if you've seen any of them on Twitch, on Michael or Impact's Twitch, of each other shouting back and forth. I'll have to. I'm not sure if you've seen the res clip of him.
I've not no.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is unreal. What he shouted at. It was in. I can't remember what map it was. It might have been. Oh, it was Nuke after Zacti had. It was a sort of a 1v2 on the site or a 2v2, and Zacti fell off the rafters and died. And then Resh stood up and started shouting at them to get his hand off his head and take the pause. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Um, Obviously the final laugh was on them because they won that map. But yeah, that was an interesting series and definitely the toughest one we had so far. The toughest couple of maps. All three were sort of we had to put everything into it. Overpass was a little bit easier, but certainly not by much. Now we move on to Darkspawn versus Howard. Howard, able to get a map off them. Certainly not a bad form for them. I think they've definitely surpassed what their seed was anyway, and I can't.
by that point, yeah.
Yeah. And they were able to take
So
overpass against Darkspawn as well. So
yeah. So obviously Nuke, Overpass, Inferno, 3 maps. I think from here it looks like Darkspawn picked Nuke, and John Howard picked Overpass. I don't think there's any sort of major issues with that. It looked to be quite in control. I think Darkspawn weren't ever sort of threatened, even at 1-1. I don't think. But yeah, having John Howard finish fifth, sixth, which is quite an achievement, obviously considering that they were seeded 11th, had somewhat of a I say somewhat of a tough run because even though they started lower bracket, they still had to play Monsters lot in the second round of lower, which were seeded
yes,
9. They then had to play Squid, which in the next round, which was seed 10. Um, so they kind of played around their teams in the sort of lower bracket, and beating them, I think, solidified them to be like on top of the rest of the pack, if that sort of makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. I think fifth to sixth was definitely not unreachable for them, but they didn't have the full lineup, and I'm pretty sure they're in the middle of making roster changes during this, etc., etc. So, sometimes the mind can wander elsewhere. But yeah,
I think for what a lot of people, I do have to say, and I still have to reiterate it, you know, by all means, there were some decent teams at this LAN,
hmm
but getting fifth, sixth at this one in comparison to 26
yes, it
is,
was so much easier than.
oh yeah, 100%. Like, I think if you got fifth, sixth here, you probably were somewhere around like the 9th, 12th in at 26. Um, and that's still not a bad thing. I mean, that still will kind of put them whereabouts where they should be, sort of thing. Um, but I'm hoping, like I say, moving forward, there'll be some more sterner tests for these sort of like mid to high teams in the UK who can sort of prove themselves, see where they are, but also try and be a surprise package or try and show that they're not just a surprise package but possible contenders as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. We'll just go through the lower consolidation. That was Darkspawn the entire way. There's no point in beating around the bush. They were better than us individually. They just outclassed us, even on their own maps. We played better on overpass against Fish 123 than we did against them. They definitely deserved to beat us and go through. There was no doubt about that. It was a pretty nothing game, really. They were just all over us. Then the low consolidation final, which is certainly an interesting one. Buzzkill versus Darkspawn. Obviously, Darkspawn beat us to get into the lower final. This was to get to the grand final as well. If anyone doesn't know how the lower bracket, upper bracket sort of finals work. 16-12 first map being Nuke as well, which I can't imagine was Buzzkill's pick.
No, that would have been a Darkspawn
Yeah,
pick.
that would have been Darkspawn, and which probably would have been quite tilting for them to get 16-12 on their own map. Obviously, they are experienced players, and losing your own map pick is not the end of the series. As shown on Overpass, it was a 2-0, but it was 16-14 on Overpass. I mean, considering who did Darkspawn lost it to someone earlier, didn't they, as well? They lost it to John Howard, and then
Yeah,
the two next games, their Overpass seemed to be a lot better than it was. Um, so fair enough to them. That's not a complete roster. I don't believe so. I believe
no,
some.
Pulse wasn't. Um, So where do I have Darkspawn? So 4 to 5 of them were in advanced, but Pulse wasn't part of that team.
Yes.
So sort of, I can't remember who the normal fifth is. If you just give me a second, get it up. Keepers. What's the history? Oh, Whisk, I think it is. Whisk was a normal. Oh no, Whisk played. Apologies. So Jenko, Emin maybe. I think Emin was part of their team last year that were in advanced. Well, last
Yes.
season, sorry. So yeah, Emin not turning up. And Emin's he's a solid player.
Yeah, Hammond's
Um,
individually very good as well. So
and he's obviously played with KPIS and Jenko for a while as well. So
yes.
I think that not having him there probably affected them quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they should be just too disheartened about it. A close 2-0. And yeah, I think getting third where they were sort of placed. I think yeah, I don't. I think they should be quite happy with that. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously they want to be exceeding their expectations. Everyone does, but I don't think they should be kicking themselves in the teeth for it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now it is the Epic 27 Grand Final, which to me was interesting because usually it is a best of five. I'm pretty sure the last at least couple of events has been a best of five, if I'm not wrong.
26 was a best of three.
Okay, Epic 25
Um,
and Epic 24.
25
I'm
I think was
sure.
a best of five.
Yeah.
But 24 I'm not sure
Um,
on.
yeah. Well, either way, it's a bit weird to me personally when you do upper and lower bracket. And then someone goes all the way through the upper bracket, which is supposed to be rewarded, but you obviously can't give a map advantage in a best of three because then they just have to win this next map. So it makes no difference for like playing well in the upper bracket and then going through. That's my opinion on why it should be a best of
Yes.
five, but it's also time restraints, etc., etc.
Yeah,
I can
time
understand.
restraints and so I kind of came up with a modified veto for best of three.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so
Oh
basically it
yes,
allowed,
I can see that on H2.
you can see it. So essentially it allowed Fish 1 to 3 straight off the bat to pick them up without having the opponent's ban,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and that's sort of how I felt was the best way to do it. Um, and yeah, so if you look at sort of the HLTV pattern, that's is kind of how I thought. I consulted this with a few players, asked them what they thought of it, and they said it's actually quite decent. It sort of um, eliminates the 1-0 from the bat for best of three, because essentially, like, you could, when you're playing best of three, reality is you're really only playing the best of two. If you're
Yes.
given a 1 map advantage,
Hmm.
um, and there's not enough sort of map time or map experience to be able to say we were undoubtedly the better team in that sort of final. Obviously, it was paid on paper, but in the survey is what matters. But yeah, if I had more time, by all means, I would have done a best of five final.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's preferred. Players prefer it. I think it's spectator preferred as well. But I think it sort of has to be like a close final as well. No one really wants to see a run out 3-0 in a
And
best
that's
of
the
five.
problem with a lot of the best of fives that have happened have pretty much been 3-0s or they've been or 2-0s technically with the map advantage. But I
Yeah,
hadn't noticed it before with the sort of different veto system. That does give you a reward for getting through the upper bracket, and that makes complete sense to me. So obviously, like you said, it was probably just time restraint. The best of five wasn't able to go ahead, but we'll just go through the very quickly. Fish 1 to 3, they get that first pick, no bans needed. They pick Mirage, makes sense, definitely been their best map, and it's a really, really sort of pug mix map that you can do well on without having anything set up. Then Nuke was removed by Fish 1 2 3, so straight after getting to pick, they get to remove. Buzzkill removed Dust 2 and Inferno, and then it was that's not right. Why is it saying removed? Okay, so Buzzkill picked Dust 2, and then Overpass was left over after the vetoes as well. Um, it's an interesting map pool for sure. Mirage 16-12 to Fish 1 to 3. I think that was certainly expected. Um, they've been more than solid on Mirage throughout the entire event. I don't think I really expected Buzzkill to be able to. They just don't have the individual level that would be able to match what Fish 123 could bring on Mirage. And then Dust 2, 16-11. I would have hoped Buzzkill would have put up more of a fight on Dust 2. Some of the, I mean, at Grobsner they did really well on it. I remember watching. I can't remember, it was an event ages ago. It might have been one of the Omen events actually, where Dust 2 they just made that their map. They in the old ESL Prem season, the last one as well on Dust 2 they beat Endpoint. Um, so again, don't have the full five. The roster was in the middle of a transition to which is now basically been disbanded. But Fish went to 3, 2-0. Smear once again, 4 Epic Lands in a row. He has now won the event that he's attended, obviously not for direct Epic Lands, but I don't think anyone else expected anything different, really.
Nah. As soon as I found out that they were turning up, I kind of just sighed. I was like, hmm, okay, another one. But yeah, I mean, they entered the tournament. They have every right to enter the tournament. And they are superior as a mix. It's sometimes just the way it is. Yeah, it can be really frustrating because you want a team to finally win LAN. Um, and yeah, for them to basically just walk in and say, yeah, this is ours, goodbye, and probably without having to break much sweat as well. So
I mean, I'm pretty sure they were out every night at least after the events and stuff like that. There was nothing that was
sounds
going to
about
slow
right.
them. There's nothing going to slow them down really, from taking what is rightfully theirs, I suppose. But
Yeah,
I think 100% deserved. They were the best team there. There's no doubt about that. Buzzkill, unfortunately, um, the roster was not at its strongest point. If it was, when they have that amazing ESL Prem season, possibly, but unfortunately, it was no bueno. However, that does conclude Epiclan setting, really, except for just ask you, Maru. Um, is this how you expected the Epiclan sort of seedings and whatnot to turn out?
I mean, I'm happy with obviously my getting 5 of the top 6 was a nice feeling. But it wasn't particularly that difficult to expect. Um, I think the middle order is where I think the best part of your understanding of how the scene currently is sort of justifies you. Um, is knowing all these tier 2 to tier 3 sort of teams, seeing how they're progressing, seeing it, or if they're not progressing, and making judgments based on where you think they're going to be. And I feel like I did well with most of them.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, there were a few people who did better than they should, or did worse than they should have done. But at the same time, yeah, I feel like because like I said to most people, every LAN I learn something new, or I learn something new about a particular team, or the format, or scheduling, whatever. And obviously, me not being here in attendance for this LAN, you still sort of learn the pattern of okay, who am I looking at next LAN? Who do I need to keep an eye on, keep track of their progress, because they're the ones that are going to give you the headache if you don't
Yes.
look at them enough.
If you sleep on them, as some of the kids say.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, so obviously it was quite difficult with Ash's team. They weren't really playing as a 5 or whatever, but they could still. I still slept on them. They still were 9-12.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Ash is the coach for Vexed. For
yeah,
anybody who was, if they thought it was a different Ash or whatever. So it's not like he's going to be playing the game on the side much or anything like that because he's going to be sitting in the coach slot for the majority of his time on CS. Um,
yeah.
so it's not really an assumption to sort of make. It's more of a judgment that if a team is, they're going to do well, you gave them the seed or whatever, but you don't know.
And I think this was easier definitely than 26. Um, so with 26, I think I actually took 2 weeks to get my list together. With this, I did it in less than 20 hours. Um,
Yeah,
So it's one of those where I'm just like, I didn't spend much time on it, as much time as I would have liked to. But it was still quite accurate, and I think that's all because of how much I've learned. And I'll take that going into 28. Hopefully, people just don't give me a headache because I mean I want it to be competitive. I really do. And I think when I start to get the headache is when I know things are getting better. I'm supposed to be getting these headaches. I'm not supposed to having them easy. Um, which is a very weird thing to say because everyone wants life to be easy, um, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean that is the entirety of Epicland. Really, it was an interesting event, and it was definitely um, not as it's just not as good. Let's be honest with ourselves here. It's not as good as the majority of previous events. I imagine the next one will be better though, hopefully, because it is again it's in the big hall. More teams are more likely to attend it. Different orgs have entered the scene, and there's more teams now available with more funding, etc., etc. At least for the top level. Um, we've got the new endpoint roster that is coming soon as well, which may want to obviously I imagine they'll attend Insomnia anyway, and Epicland will come up after that. But that is Epicland completed. We now move on to hopefully when I get my camera sorted. It will be ESL Premiership, the most recent season that is basically just concluded with the live finals coming up in July soon. So we'll just have a quick look at the standings here. This was the end of the standings. It was all one group this time around. You may remember in the previous season it was two groups, but Fierce top their group, Endpoint in second place, obviously, which is a bit surprising considering the penalty points they had been given, and they had also had many roster changes, or the roster was sort of at this point falling apart with changes coming in and some people having to play even if they're not on the roster anymore. But they're able to finish the top two and they go directly to the live finals. Playoffs have Vexed, Pensioners, Wind and Rain, Royals. Wind and Rain, obviously a bit of a controversial one for some people at least, due to it being the full Lithuanian lineup. With the majority, however, the majority of them are living in the UK, working in the UK. They meet the requirements um, to be able to compete, so it's not really that controversial. However, the most controversial part about it is a few of them have a few face it bans and whatnot. I don't want to get into that today, but yeah, Vex, they finished top of the playoff group in third place. I can see you shaking your head, am I right? They are obviously probably at the moment either the second best team behind Fierce or maybe above them, with obviously this endpoint roster coming in, and we have to wait and see. So you expect them to make playoffs. Pensioners, not allowed to play with Smooth this season, I believe, if I'm correct about that.
Both Smooth and Surreal.
So that was a big blow to them. I mean, they would have been guaranteed probably top two with Smooth and Cyril. But, it's fair enough. You want it to be as competitive as you can be, and without having people who are signed to professional contracts on different teams, it can make the difference for those individuals. Wind and Rain, obviously, a fairly new lineup completed. They qualified last during the last relegation season, so it's good for them that they're able to not only keep their spot but make the playoffs as well. Royals, which was the sort of Capers mix, um, it's a historic line that used to be an MDL or a Premier when it was, I believe, called them. But interestingly enough, Buzzkill and Reflex are the ones that are going into relegations. Um, Certainly, that's not what I would have expected to see at the start of the season, at least, anyway. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think
Okay,
you
cool.
kind of cut out the last bit. That's all.
Oh, okay, it's my audio then. Yeah, basically, Buzzkill and Reflex, I didn't expect them to be at that point. I didn't expect them to be in relegation.
Yeah. This was a particular eventful season. Um, I think I'm right in saying that. Um, yeah. I didn't expect. Obviously, well, two teams who made the finals last year or last season, sorry, to go into relegation. I kind of expected them to be sort of mid-table. but yeah, it has cooked up. I think going back to your first point about um, the Fierce versus Vex sort of rivalry, who's one and two. Um, I think before the season, I definitely had Vex that won after
Yeah.
winning I Series, but over the course of the season, Fierce have looked good. They went 7-0, with one overtime win. Whereas Vex, I wouldn't say they were shaky, but they weren't as sort of complete as they looked previously. Um, and yeah, with the endpoint team, it'll be interesting to see what that endpoint team is and what it does and what it becomes. Um, as far as I'm aware, the endpoint team going to the live finals isn't the new one. So
No, I
this,
believe Rustlocks would have stopped them from doing that. Is that if I'm
yeah,
correct?
yeah. So this will be the sort of last rendition of the Mighty Max endpoint as we know it. His last ride. Um,
Off to the sunset.
off to wherever he feels. Um, but yeah, I think Pensioners coming forth was quite interesting. Obviously the two players been banned, Smooya and I say banned, they weren't allowed to play,
Yes.
due to the sort of restrictions based on, well, yeah, like say professional contracts having a skill caliber to be, well, Surreal's in MDL and Smooya's still contractually signed to Big, who are a Pro League team. Was an interesting rule. Um, I think it makes sense because the only reason why it was enforced, so if anyone doesn't know, the sort of route that happens once you win Premiership, you basically get invited into the MDL relegation sort of playoffs bracket. So to have a player who's already in MDL, who is probably part of one of the better teams in MDL as well. So for him to basically be on a Prem team that gets promoted into this sort of playoff bracket wouldn't make sense because he wouldn't be allowed to play in that tournament. So we're just trying to sort of not, I wouldn't say protect, but sort of encourage a new breed of players rather than having gatekeepers.
Yeah. It makes
Um,
complete sense. It's hard to argue against it, in my opinion, at least, when they
I mean,
can't even take the prize.
yeah, so there are arguments obviously for those level of players to be in, which I understand, which is obviously the harder the players that are in the league, the more competitive the league becomes. Which
Which is a
is
fair point.
which is a fair point. Um, but I think individuals at that caliber can basically take the team, in their own hands and do stuff with it. I mean, we watched it last season where pensioners were 0-3 after the sort of first round of games. In comes Smooth, and he basically, I wouldn't say single-handedly, but he played a probably an 85% role in getting them that trophy.
Yeah, that is definitely. I mean, they've won so many of that type of lineup as well, where they sort of go for a mix, and it promotes stability in rosters, or at least a couple of the other
Yeah.
rules that have
So
started controversy
yeah.
at the start of the season. But this one sort of adds to that.
So yeah. So we kind of obviously agreed from that then that having sort of stacks from, so say if we had a UK stack that was MDL caliber, um, they would be allowed to play in Prem. So if Fierce made it into MDL, they would still be allowed to play in Prem on the basis of the fact that they are a five-stack team who are at that caliber level, who essentially is just trying to improve the quality of UK. Because when teams play against better teams, they undoubtedly improve.
Yeah,
That's just, even if you get battered 16-3, if you learn something, you've learned something vital. And I think it encourages that. I mean, we see that in the Pro League Premiership, where we have Secret and obviously now Navi, who are Pro League level caliber teams, who are allowed to play in the UK Prem because the whole point of it is to boost, not just popularity within the UK league, but also improve the quality of players. And the players also say it themselves, without playing these lot, we wouldn't know how we test ourselves. So I think it can become good eventually. It's just the issue is the UK scene is quite a bit behind its counterparts
Yeah,
in Europe. So at the minute, trying to get us all up together is proving quite difficult because it's all about stability and just trying to improve as a collection first, as a team first, rather than the scene. Once we get a team up there, then things will start to improve. I think that anyway. But coming back to Prem, obviously, I think Vex finishing third was interesting. Pensioners above the rest of them was, in my eyes, very interesting, especially after the two players being banned. So they did well for themselves. Obviously, having Luzza helps.
yes,
One of the best stoppers, in the country. Does I suppose it does help having him on. Wind and rain. I'm just gonna say it. Just for the sake of everyone, we we know they've got face fans.
yes,
Everybody does. But what people have to realize is the platform that the league's been played on isn't FACEIT. It's being played on ESA, who have their own attitude.
yes,
There's legality issues regarding cross-platform banning because if it's found out that they weren't being banned, or if they were falsely banned on one platform and the other platform mirrored it, there could be serious legal consequences if you're not careful.
yeah, exactly.
The only worldwide ban that is sort of recognized by everyone is if you've got a VAT ban within the last 2 years. Now the issue is obviously some accounts were brought forward to me. This was proven to me. This wasn't proven to me. This was showed to me during the relegation stage to get into the summer season. And I basically looked at the profiles. I forwarded them on to ESEA reps, and I said, if you can find a link between these accounts, then you have the right to ban them.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, they couldn't. At that point, my sort of last hope is, do I email Valve? Now, I could either get a response straight away, or I could probably wait for 3-4 years.
yeah,
Who knows at that point? Um, because they've got more important stuff to do, and they don't really. I don't say they don't care, but it's not on their priority list to concentrate on a UK league.
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's a
So
difficult situation either way, and people need to understand the context of the investigation has been done. There is no evidence to support that they should be banned during the ESL season, so we just got to sort of get over it, really. Unless something else comes forward, then you can have your suspicions all you want about who's cheating or whatever, but there is nothing that ESL can do directly because you have concerns about something.
yeah, I mean, by all means, you can have concerns about anything, and you can always put forward your arguments and whatnot. But if there's no clear link, because you remember, you have to be 100% certain. We can't just say because there's a mass amount of people in the community saying, because that could be classified as a witch hunt as well.
Yes.
So as an admin, don't get me wrong, sometimes I feel kind of off. But I also have to remember I can't listen to the community because I kind of have to have my own judgment on it. And it's same with a lot of things when it comes to format seeding and all that sort of stuff. Um, I have to kind of block out all of that and be rational about it, because if I don't be rational about it and I let emotions take over, then I've already failed in what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's 100% right. I think it's just something people are gonna have to get over. That's the only thing. But
it'll take time,
it
but
would take, yeah,
if something does happen and it's blatant and everyone picks up on it, then it'll happen. But until then, we kind of just have to say, whatever, let's just focus on our own game and not even think about that.
yeah. That,
Moving on from them,
exactly. Let's not talk about Wind and Rain for another hour. But it is now the playoffs have concluded, or the online playoffs have concluded.
yeah,
Vex Gaming versus Royals, Pensioners versus Wind and Rain. Vex Gaming beat Royals 2-0 in that online semi-final to qualify for the live finals. Obviously, if you don't remember, I'll bring up the graphic again. That Fierce and Endpoint have already qualified to the live finals, um, so they didn't need to play a best of three. That's why they're not featured here. And then Pensioners versus Wind and Rain. Wind and Rain beat Wind and Rain beat Pensioners in the end.
Yep,
Again, I believe that was 2-0, I want to say.
that was a tour. Both of them went 16-3. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so the way the sort of league structure worked, 1 and 2 went straight to finals weekend or finals day essentially. 3 played 6, 4 played 5, and 7 and 8 will go on to the relegation tournament that will happen August the 3rd, I believe, against the top 2 from Division 2. So yeah, so 3v6, it kind of is supposed to go the way it is. Vex, you know, thoroughly outclassing Royals 16-6, 16-0. I just remember KP's messaging me saying, "Well," and I was like, you know,
Poor
we
KP, man.
don't think we had a 16-0 all season, and there comes one in playoff week. So Vex probably turned it up a notch maybe, and
Yeah,
just decided to say, all right, focus mode. But that result was kind of expected. The one that wasn't expected was Pensioners pretty much getting battered 16-3, 16-3
they got
by
destroyed
Wind
by.
and Rain,
Yeah.
and I've watched Luzzer a couple of times since that, and I remember hearing him saying on stream, "Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that game again." It was one of the worst sort of series as a unit they've had, just sort of getting collectively battered. But they didn't pull up any complaints. They just say, "All right, well, we
They just got outclassed.
we got battered." I mean, other people in the scene did put out a few tweets. I did see them, but there's not really much I can do about that. So in that sort of context, obviously Fierce will then go on to play Wind and Rain, and Endpoint will play Vexed in the semi-finals. I'm not sure which way around they play first or second,
Okay.
but I know those will be the matchups.
Well, it's something to look forward to. Do you know the date of the finals? Is it 23rd of July? Is that
Um,
correct?
as far as I'm aware, it is next weekend, 27th, 28th. So 27th is Rainbow Six, and the 28th is CS. Um,
Wait,
so yeah,
that's next weekend's 2021st. So,
that's this weekend, isn't it? Oh well, 27th,
oh yes,
28th is
sorry.
on a
Yeah, I forgot it's Monday. Yeah, yeah, you're right. So it is next weekend.
yeah.
It'll be an interesting finals. I think some of the best matchups we've had in a couple seasons anyway are in the finals. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing that anyway. Well, I might go to the
I'm
live finals.
I'm expecting a fierce Vexed final.
Yes.
Um, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're all best of threes. Betas will be done on the day, so I have no idea on what won't be played. And believe you me, I wouldn't say if I knew. Um, but yeah, I think the Endpoint Vex game is going to be the one to watch. Um, Fierce Wind and Rain, the game that happened in the regular season, that actually went to the full 30 rounds. That was 16-14 Fierce win on Vertigo.
Yeah. Do you know if Wind and Rain have confirmed the roster as attending finals yet? Because
Um,
I had heard that Emil Shen possibly is not attending.
so as far as I'm aware, he's currently going through the visa process.
Yes, that is.
ESL UK are sort of cooperating with that. And obviously helping him as best as he can. But with it being next weekend, they are pushing for sort of an answer. But yeah, I haven't seen anything as to what is the confirmed roster, and it's not something I am sort of dealing with anymore. Obviously, I'm not able to make live finals due to already planned stuff with a few friends.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be there, so I'm not involved in anything leading up to that. Obviously, all of that work is carried out by the ESL UK team internally. So I wouldn't know until the day you knew, essentially,
Okay. Yeah.
when they publicly announce it.
Yeah. I mean, that is ESL Premiership and Epiclan27 sort of recapped and previewed for what is coming up. Make sure you watch the live finals as well. It is in Leicester this time around, and it's certainly going to be a good day. I'm still considering going up to watch it as well. So maybe I'll see you there. But thank you again, Maru, for joining me here today. Is I think definitely the best recap we've had, or the most insightful one of Epic 20 or any Epic Land we've had so far. yeah, so thank you for joining me today. Hopefully we can have you on soon enough, but regular programming will be back soon enough as well. And as soon as Fraser gets his internet sorted, it doesn't have to be me doing it and trying to click every button I can. But again, thank you all for watching. This will be up on YouTube if you have missed anything later. And make sure to follow Maru on Twitter, as you can see on the bottom below, and me on Twitter. And we'll see you later.